Hello folks, in this video we're going to be discussing digital ownership of content versus physical. Now you might say, what's the big deal? Who cares? If you buy it digitally, don't you own it? Well, recent events have shown that you in fact do not own the content. In fact, you never really have. What you owned was a license to it. So for example, take Duke Nukem 64 here. I don't own that game. I can't, for example, say if you want this game, you must pay me royalties. I don't own it. I own the license to it, but I own it in a physical version that will essentially exist in perpetuity until something goes wrong with these cartridges. Now, these cartridges are over 20 years old and they still work. So, essentially, I own that game. Duke Nukem 64, I'll have that forever as mine. Maybe when the cardboard box rots away and that all comes to an end, then we don't own it anymore. But essentially, I own that. Same with games like this on the Sega Mega Drive, Amazing Wars. As long as that cartridge and those pins stay good, this is mine. And as long as I have the hardware to play it on, I can play this forever. Let's take a look at Mario Rabbids. Let's say I sell my Switch, or my Switch breaks, or any number of things. I've decided I don't want to play Switch games anymore. So I can take this into the shop and I can, provided I've got this little cartridge here, I can sell that and the shop will give me money for it. Great. I get some money back. Happy day. Someone else gets to play it at a reduced price. Now what happens if I bought this physically? Poof. I go to sell my game. I can't sell my game because, as it turns out, I didn't actually own my game. Same with Blu-rays and things. What we've had is Sony recently have had to take down content that people have actually bought. So people say, well, but I bought it. It's like, yeah, it's not illegal for them to say that, but technically you didn't buy it. So when Sony have, for example, had to take down content from Discovery because it got bought out by someone else, it's not necessarily Sony's fault, but at the end of the day, that content is now gone despite you apparently having bought it, but you never really did. Essentially what you're doing is renting it, and this is the issue with digital. Now, if you're the kind of person where you think, well, what do I care if they take it down? I don't care, I've played it. But what if you haven't played it? What if you've bought these two games here, you've got a lot of other games, and you've gone, I'll play Sonic Colors, I'll play that later, and that'll be alright. Maybe I'll delete it off my SSD or my hard disk and I'll come back to it. Right? That's okay. Because, well, the disk is in the system right now. But you would have the disk and you can put it back in your system. Job done, you can play it. Now, imagine Microsoft have bought Sega, for example. And you haven't got this installed on your system. And suddenly, that's taken away. Now, you don't have this anymore. And guess what? You never really did. You had a license to use it, but you've paid full price for that license. So now your game that you haven't had a chance to play is gone. You can't play it now because now it's on a different system. Same with things like this. Unlikely that Sony would ever take this down, but what if they did? You've paid probably more than the cost of physical to actually have this game, and then it's gone for some reason. Or let's say Sony, because recently Sony made an error and they took down a load of PlayStation accounts. So suddenly you can't gain access to the games you've paid for because Sony, in error, closed your account or banned it. Now they did get them back, but it just goes to show what can happen. See, now I have this physically. This game isn't tied to anything. So if, for example, suddenly Sony shut down my account, I can't access it and they won't give it back, and I still want to play PlayStation, well, I suppose I can create a new account, I'll lose all my saves and stuff, but I still got the physical version. I'll stick it back in and I'm away, playing again. If I bought this digitally, that's gone. And there is no recourse either, because it's in the small print. You do not own it. Now, another failing point of this non-ownership stuff is that this game cost me, I think, £40, £38 to buy when it came out. If I'd have bought it digitally, I'd have paid £50 or £60 for it. So not only do I not own it, but I'm paying more for the privilege of not owning it and possibly having it removed at a later date. And this is the same with loads of things. You think, for example, I'll go online and I'll purchase a Blu-ray, but not a Blu-ray. I'll purchase it digitally, and we'll just watch that, and that'll be there forever. And with a company like Sky, maybe it will be there forever. But other companies come and go, and then your content is lost. Whereas you buy a 4K Blu-ray, for example, the excellent Super Mario Brothers movie. You get your 4K Blu-ray in there. No normal one on this one, but it doesn't matter. And you can then watch this forever. No one's coming into your house to take this away from you. But if you have this in any other means, that could happen. So what are the benefits of buying digital then? I say buying, what I should be saying is renting digital. The benefits are convenience. You haven't got to get up, put the disc in, put the disc away at the end, put the case away. I suppose that's the only benefit, really. I suppose you could log in anywhere on most devices and watch your content rather than needing a disc. But I would question, if you've got a movie like this, it's a big sort of AAA movie, why are you watching it on your phone or whatever? Just watch it properly on the big screen TV. If you must watch it on your phone, I suppose you could get a digital version, but is that really a necessity? I wouldn't have said so. See, back in these days, this was the last console really where everything came out physically, except maybe a couple of mini games, but everything was physical. And, you know, there were patches, but in general, most of the games came out fairly working out of the box. This was the last generation of that. What happens if the internet goes down? You can't connect, you can't authenticate your console. Well, if you've got boxed versions of games, you can still play them. And of course, you've got your old Sega Saturn and games and whatnot, and people say, well, what about disc rot? What about this? What about that? I suppose if you store them in your loft, maybe they'll get damaged or whatever. But these are stored in our house in a normal condition, in the boxes, and I mean, this is over 20 years old, probably 25 years old now, and there's no disc rot as of yet. Even the case itself is in pretty good condition. So, what about companies like Steam? Well, Steam are a bit of a benevolent company, shall we say. I don't think their intention is ever to harm you, to take away your content. They did recently have to take away a bunch of Mac games. The reason being, Mac will no longer support 32-bit applications. So those old games can no longer be played. So even a company like Steam, where I think they want to do what's best for the consumer in general, they can't because someone else has basically told them you can't. So it's something to be aware of. I'm not saying digital ownership is bad, but it's something to be aware of. If you can, buy your games physically. You know, I know you can't for the PC anymore, but if you can buy them physically for anything else, I would highly recommend you do so. And recent events where, for example, Sony tried to close down the PS Vita, PSP and PlayStation 3 stores, you know, that should show you that someone new comes into the business and they decide, we don't want to support that anymore. That's got some licensed music in it, which it does have a bit. We're going to get rid of that. And it doesn't matter because you probably already played it. That's all right. Who cares? And for the large part, yeah, probably people will go, oh, I've already played it. But the fact is, you own it. If someone came into your house and said, you've already watched this 4K Blu-ray, we're now going to steal it and take it away from you, would you accept that? No, you'd call the police, wouldn't you? But because you don't physically own some of these things, apparently it's okay to steal it. And they say that's not theft. They say you don't own it. Okay, well, if you can't own digital content, let's say I go online and I pirate this game. Probably not for PlayStation. Let's say I pirate a PC game. They'll say, you're pirating that, you're stealing from us. I say, but you said I don't own it. You can't own physical digital content. So how am I pirating it if it's impossible to own it to begin with? A lot of questions there, but my general takeaway would be always try and buy physical if you can. They've tried it with things like Alan Wake 2, where they've released the game and it's only digital. They're hoping that it's a big game and you'll say, I'll just wait. I'll just buy it digital and that's fine. It's, you know. No, don't do that. Wait for it to come out physically. Let them know that you want things physically. That you won't be pushed around and you won't be taken advantage of by buying a game for now what is sometimes going for about £60 or £70, only to have it potentially taken away from you. Now, I'm not saying this is a huge widespread issue. Most of my games that I've got on my PS3 and that, they've been there forever. And, you know, if they suddenly disappeared, I probably wouldn't even notice, but that's not the point. I've paid for these things, so I should be able to keep them, and so should you. Buy physical when you can. And if none of this bothers you, then don't worry about it. So I hope you found this video useful, helpful, or enjoyable. And if you did, please remember to hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe, share this video on social media, check out my Patreon, and thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.